Troy falls. Odysseus packs up his fleet, points it toward home, and sails off into what should have been a 3-week boat ride. He gets home 10 years later, alone, on a stranger's boat. Everyone he sailed with is dead. His own dog doesn't even recognize him. Today we're figuring out exactly how a guy manages to turn a 3-week commute into a full decade-long disaster. Here's the actual answer before we get into it. It wasn't bad luck, and it wasn't really the monsters either. It was one furious sea god holding a permanent grudge, and Odysseus personally making the single worst decision of his life about 30 minutes into the trip. Everything after that is just consequences. Leg 1. Odysseus and his fleet stop at a place called Ismarus, home to a people called the Cicones, and they raid it. Not because they had to, just because it's there and it looks raidable. They grab loot, kill some locals, and then Odysseus' crew decides to stick around and throw a beach party instead of leaving immediately. The Cicones come back with reinforcements and wreck them. Dozens of men dead. Day 1 of the trip home, and they're already behind schedule for a fight they started. They finally get back on the water, and a massive storm grabs the fleet and blows it completely off course for 9 straight days. This is the last time in the entire story that anything bad happens to Odysseus that isn't at least partly his own fault. Enjoy it. It doesn't happen again. They land on the island of the Lotus Eaters, where the local plant makes anyone who eats it forget home entirely and just want to sit there forever, blissed out, doing nothing. Several of Odysseus' men eat it immediately. He has to physically drag his own crew back to the ships, kicking and screaming, because they've genuinely stopped wanting to go home. First real warning sign. Half this crew doesn't actually want to be rescued. Next stop, the island of the Cyclopes. A one-eyed giant named Polyphemus traps Odysseus and his men in his cave and starts eating them, one at a time, for dinner. Odysseus gets him drunk, blinds his one eye with a sharpened stake, and gets the surviving crew out hidden under sheep. Genuinely clever, genuinely necessary. This part is fine. Then, as they're sailing away, safe, free, already winning, Odysseus turns around and shouts his own name back at the blinded Cyclops, just to make sure the giant knows exactly who humiliated him. Polyphemus is the son of Poseidon, god of the sea, the exact god you need on your side for a 10-year boat trip. Polyphemus prays to his dad, by name, for revenge by name. Odysseus, just personally, verbally signed his own 10-year sentence. Next, the wind god Aeolus takes pity on them and hands Odysseus a magic bag containing every unfavorable wind in the world, sealed shut, so only the good wind pushes them straight home. It works. Ithaca is actually visible on the horizon. And then, while Odysseus sleeps for the first time in days, his own crew opens the bag, convinced it's secretly full of gold he's hiding from them. It is not full of gold. It is full of hurricane. It blows them all the way back to Aeolus' island. Aeolus takes one look at them and says, absolutely not. Get out. The gods clearly hate you specifically. They land next among the Laestrygonians, a tribe of cannibal giants, who casually stand on the cliffs above the harbor and start throwing boulders down onto the fleet like it's a carnival game. 11 of Odysseus' 12 ships get smashed and sunk right there in the harbor, crews included. Only Odysseus' own ship, which he'd smartly kept outside the harbor, survives. The fleet that left Troy is now down to 1 ship. 1. They wash up on Circe's island, and the sorceress immediately turns Odysseus' remaining men into literal pigs. Odysseus resists her magic, forces her to change them back, and then, despite this, stays on her island for an entire year. Not escaping, not sailing, not even really trying. A full year, just living there, while the actual journey home sits completely on pause. Circe eventually tells him he needs directions, and the only guy who has them is a dead prophet in the underworld. So Odysseus sails to the literal edge of the world and enters the land of the dead to ask a ghost for GPS coordinates. He gets his directions. He also runs into the ghosts of dead soldiers from Troy, including his own mother, who died of grief waiting for him. Then he leaves, as one does. Back on the water, they pass the Sirens, whose singing lures sailors to their deaths, and Odysseus survives only by plugging his crew's ears with wax and tying himself to the mast so he can hear it and not jump in. Then comes the real gut punch, a narrow strait with a six-headed monster, Scylla, living in a cave up in the cliffside on one side, and a ship-swallowing whirlpool, Charybdis, on the other. Circe already warned him. Pick Scylla, lose exactly 6 men, 1 per head, and move on. Odysseus picks Scylla on purpose. 6 of his men get grabbed and eaten alive, screaming right in front of him because the math said that was the correct call. They land on Thrinacia, the island of the sun, god Helios' sacred cattle, and Odysseus gives one simple rule: do not touch the cows under any circumstances. Bad winds trap them there for weeks, food runs out, and eventually, while Odysseus is asleep, his starving crew eats the cattle anyway. Helios is furious. Zeus personally sends a storm that destroys the ship and kills every single remaining crew member. Everyone. Odysseus survives purely because he was the one guy who didn't eat the cow. Alone now, Odysseus washes up on the island of the nymph Calypso, who falls for him, and keeps him there, willingly or not, for 7 straight years, offering him immortality if he just stays forever. 7 years is not a delay. 7 years is most of the entire trip, just sitting on one beach while everyone back home assumes he's dead. Eventually, the other gods get tired of this and order Calypso to let him go. He builds a raft, gets absolutely wrecked by one final Poseidon-sent storm just to remind him who's still mad, and washes up half dead on the shore of the Phaeacians, a friendly seafaring people who finally, just give him a ship and sail him straight home themselves. No tricks, no monsters, just a normal boat ride. It only took 9.5 years to get one of those. Odysseus finally reaches Ithaca, and the very first thing waiting for him is not a nice reunion. It's over 100 suitors who've spent years camped out in his own house, eating his food, drinking his wine, and trying to marry his wife, all while assuming he's dead and never coming back. He has to disguise himself as a beggar in his own home, just to figure out who's still loyal before doing anything about it. His wife Penelope sets up a contest. Whoever can string Odysseus's old bow and shoot an arrow through a row of axe handles gets to marry her. Every suitor tries. Every suitor fails. Then the beggar in the corner picks up the bow, strings it like it's nothing, makes the shot, and reveals himself as Odysseus. He and his son then kill every single suitor in the room. 10 years of travel ends in one extremely violent afternoon. So here's the whole decade, back to back. Random, pointless raid, gone wrong. Storm, not his fault. Lotus Eaters, crew doesn't want to leave. Cyclops, handled fine, then ruined by his own ego. Bag of Winds opened by his own crew. Cannibal Giants, 11 ships gone. Circe's Island, 1 full year, voluntarily. Underworld field trip. Scylla, 6 men on purpose. Sacred cows, eaten anyway, entire crew wiped out. Calypso's Island, 7 years. 1 final storm just for spite. Then finally, mercifully, a normal boat ride home. So why did it really take 10 years? It's not the distance. Troy to Ithaca is a boat ride of a few hundred miles, a few weeks tops, in good conditions. It's that Odysseus personally recruited a permanently furious god by shouting his own name at exactly the wrong moment, and then he and his crew spent the next decade making one impulsive, avoidable decision after another, opening bags they were told not to open, eating cows they were told not to eat, lingering on islands they should have left. The monsters didn't really do this to him. He did most of it to himself, one bad call at a time. The moral here is simple. When you've just escaped a life-threatening situation, do not turn around and gloat about it to the one monster whose dad controls the ocean you're about to spend a decade sailing across. And if you like this, subscribe, because Curious Chat isn't just ancient Greek disasters. We cover pretty much anything: history, science, weird internet stuff, whatever's actually interesting that week. See you in the next one.